This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, February 24th, 2026. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Tense tourists caught in the middle of Mexico's cartel violence.
For the next couple days, it's going to be a little dicey.
I'm Rich Johnson.
The Northeast is digging out after one of the worst blizzards in 30 years.
There was at least 6 foot of snow drifting.
I'm Sue Aller.
President Trump to address the nation tonight.
Americans are suffering.
I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, yesterday's ugly sell-off for stocks could be a buying opportunity or the end of the bull market. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A federal judge has permanently blocked the release of special counsel Jack Smith's report on his probe of President Trump, Sagar Magani, Washington.
And a Texas congressman facing calls from his own party to resign. We'll tell you why. All ahead on America in the Morning. Tourists from around the world, especially the United States, are hoping to get out of the Mexican resort cities that have been hit by drug cartel violence following the death of one powerful cartel leader. Correspondent Rich Johnson reports the cartel attacks came after a drug kingpin known as El Mencho was tracked down and killed by Mexico's government forces.
It started as just another Sunday morning for John Thompson and his wife vacationing in Puerto Vallarta.
We had taken off this morning to go to breakfast. We were walking down the street, and in front of us, there's a full-size city bus on fire.
They got a first look at what turned into a day of violence as gang members set fires, blocked roads, and killed at least 70 people across Mexico. It was retaliation for the security operation that killed Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, the head of the Jalisco New Generation cartel.
Now they have us kind of on lockdown. They don't want us out on the street because there's fear that the cartel may start retaliating in a different way.
Thompson's comments courtesy of KOMO in Seattle. On Fox's Will Cain show, tourist Bo Yachty was also staying behind his hotel's locked doors.
If you do leave, you have to sign a waiver. Anything you do beyond that point is on you.
But even yesterday, barely 24 hours after the violence, airlines started resuming flights to Puerto Vallarta. Many others are expected to do the same today. The U.S. Embassy is telling people to make sure their specific flight is happening before leaving their accommodations. As for what's next, former DEA Deputy Administrator Jack Riley says the revenge for El Mencho's death may not be over.
Was the most wanted man in the Western Hemisphere. So he has some loyal followers in virtually every corner of Mexico as well as the United States.
Which means that anyone still around needs to continue to keep a very low profile.
For the next couple of days, it's going to be a little dicey. And I'm afraid for people down there, they really need to be careful and watch what they're doing.
Riley's comments courtesy of KABC in Los Angeles. I'm Rich Johnson.
The blizzard of 2026 will be remembered as the worst winter storm to hit the Northeast in 30 years. And even though the snow has stopped, the effects of the blizzard will remain for days and weeks. Sue Aller reports from New York, where some places received over 2 feet of snow.
Put it in the record books. The blizzard of 2026 is now officially one of New York's top 10 snowstorms, dumping over 2 feet of snow in spots and unleashing hurricane-force winds. Suffolk County saw the most at 30 inches. Central Park recorded 19.7 inches. Newark, New Jersey picked up 25.8 inches, and even Boston, Massachusetts saw nearly 17 inches. New York Governor Kathy Hochul told CBS News she's proud of New Yorkers for facing the storm head on.
And I want to thank everybody, all of our first responders and our snowplow drivers and our utility crews that are out there in really treacherous weather trying to get the power back on.
JCP&L in New Jersey had nearly 45,000 customers in the dark. PSE&G Long Island reported 11,000 and Con Ed had just over 3,000. And who's doing the shoveling? This person spoke to Pix 11 News.
There was at least 6 foot of snow drifting. That's how. So me and my daughter, we just knocked things down little by little.
And it was misery at the airports. Monday brought more than 19,000 delays and over 61,000 cancellations. Mass transit into and out of New York City is slowly coming back online. Roads have been reopened. Commuter trains are returning. And some schools will be closed tomorrow, but not New York City schools. They will be open. In New York, I'm Sue Aller.
There are already a few thousand canceled flights due to the storm's aftermath, with all three of New York City's airports, Boston's Logan Airport and the International Airport in Providence, Rhode Island, all showing as many as 50% of their flights canceled today. About 40% of all JetBlue flights are now canceled. The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Save on personalized comfort during Sleep Number's President's Day sale. Their best deals are on now, limited time, only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com. When we return on America in the Morning, a preview of tonight's Trump State of the Union address after these messages. America in the Morning continues with a follow-up on Blizzard 26. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy with a recap.
A historic storm has finally exited off the northeast coast after dumping feet of snow in some areas, but another clipper is on its heels, starting out in the northern plains today and then moving into the Great Lakes and then shifting eastward into New York, Pennsylvania, and New England tonight. Snow amounts with this storm will be much less, with a general 1 to 3 inches, but higher amounts over 6 inches are possible near the lakes with enhancement from lake effect snow. Before the snow arrives tonight in the northeast, there will be some sunshine today, but it will be cold compared to average, with highs only in the teens across northern New York into New England, and then some 20s and 30s farther south into the mid-Atlantic. That chillier air will extend southward through the Ohio and Tennessee valleys through the rest of the southeastern states, with highs only in the 40s, 50s, and 60s from Kentucky to Mississippi, and then eastward to Virginia, southward to Florida. This is generally about 5 to 15 degrees below the historical average for the eastern U.S. Where warmer weather will be more prominent is in the central and southern plains states, with highs in the 60s and 70s in parts of Nebraska, Missouri, and Kansas, and southward to Texas, and even a few 80s in southwest Kansas into western Oklahoma and western Texas. And these areas will also enjoy plenty of sunshine. Farther west, an ongoing storminess will continue to bring another round of heavier rain through northern California into southern Oregon. Some of these areas were hit pretty hard last week with heavy rain and mountain snow. That's the weather across America. It is going to be a cloudy day in Boise, Idaho, with periods of rain and a high around 50. In Burlington, Vermont, it is going to be much colder. We'll have plenty of clouds with a high of 19. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President Trump will address the nation tonight in his annual State of the Union address. Correspondent Clayton Neville has a preview.
As President Trump addresses the country tonight during the State of the Union address, many Americans, including Democrats in Congress, are raising concerns over high prices in America. Following a recent decision by the Supreme Court to strike down some of Trump's recently agreed-to tariffs, Senator Chuck Schumer commented on President Trump's suggestion that he'll raise tariffs on countries that refuse to abide by tariff deals already agreed to.
People pay more for so many daily goods. Americans are suffering because Donald Trump is raising tariffs.
Ahead of tonight's address, President Trump's approval rating among political independents has dipped. According to CNN, just 32% of Americans say that Trump has the right priorities. 68% say he hasn't paid enough attention to the country's important problems. His job approval rating among adults held steady at about 36%. Tonight's address expected to be a pivotal one for the president as he looks to build momentum for Republicans in the midterms later this year. He said it's going to be a long speech because we have a lot to talk about. The address, slated to air on all the major networks, starts at 9 o'clock Eastern tonight. I'm Clayton Neville.
More is being learned about the armed man who was shot and killed after he breached security at President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort Sunday by the Secret Service. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Austin Tucker Martin, who authorities say entered President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort with a shotgun before he was shot and killed Sunday, worked as a golf course groundskeeper in North Carolina. His cousin Braden Fields defends him to the AP.
We're big Trump supporters, all of us, everybody.
But admits his 21-year-old cousin kept his politics to himself. Still, he says,
I wouldn't believe that he would do something like this. It's kind of, it's mind-blowing.
Authorities say Martin walked through a gate at Mar-a-Lago in Florida and raised a shotgun when confronted by law enforcement, who opened fire, killing him.
I'm a big hunter, and I've had him around guns all the time, and he's never used one. He don't like them. It hurts his ears. I mean, we've took him to shoot guns, but he won't touch them. The only gun he's used is a BB gun.
Trump, who often spends weekends at Mar-a-Lago, was at the White House at the time of the shooting. I'm Julie Walker.
Coming up, AI disruption, tariffs, and mortgage rates drop. Part of business news when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Not a great day for stocks in the market yesterday. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with a recap.
Wall Street opens this morning after an ugly sell-off for stocks yesterday. Software, cybersecurity, and banks all took hits. Some investors have growing fears about AI disruption in a number of industries. And investors are also worried about the drag on the economy that tariffs on, tariffs off, and on again bring. The Dow plunged 800 points. All of this uncertainty sent gold back up to more than $5,200 an ounce, and Bitcoin fell to about $64,000. Would-be home buyers might want to strike while mortgage rates are down to where they were 3.5 years ago.
The average rate on the popular 30-year fixed mortgage fell to 5.99%. According to Mortgage News Daily, to match the lowest level since September 2022. Last year at this time, the rate was 6.89%. The drop in yields is due, of course, to uncertainty over tariffs and economic weakness shown in that lackluster GDP report.
CNBC's Diana Olick. Under the Trump new tariffs of 15% across the board on everything coming into the U.S., this raises the amount U.S. businesses and consumers may pay on some things, and it lowers it on others.
Who are the big winners here on a 15% rate? Well, the Asian supply countries, and the biggest winners continue to be Canada and Mexico, which are going to get very significant relief from this, about $30 billion overall.
Strategas Research's Dan Clifton on CNBC. Meantime, CNBC's Emily Wilkins in Washington says a number of Republican representatives don't want to have any tariffs at all hanging around for the midterm elections in November.
Trump is likely going to have a tough time getting congressional approval to extend that 15% across the board tariffs beyond the initial 150 days that a law allows him to implement. Over the weekend, we saw Congressman Don Bacon, a Republican from Nebraska, tweeting that the 15% global tariff will not endure. It is not constitutional. It is not only terrible policy, but it is also bad politics. Now, Americans overwhelmingly disapprove of the administration's tariff policy.
Airlines canceled thousands of flights in the Northeast blizzard through today, with airports crippled under snow. Most airlines waived change and cancellation fees ahead of the storm. FlightAware has about 40% of all flights out of New York's JFK and LaGuardia and Boston's Logan Airport canceled for today. On today's watch list, we get earnings from Keurig Dr. Pepper, theater owner AMC Entertainment, and restaurant chain Cava. We get the latest on home prices from S&P Case-Shiller. We'll get a fresh read on consumer confidence. Burger King brings back the Maple Bourbon Barbecue Whopper. And President Trump delivers his State of the Union address tonight.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, federal judge rules on Trump's classified documents after these messages. Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez is facing growing pressure to resign amid allegations that he had coerced a sexual relationship with a staff member who later killed herself. Gonzalez is facing heat from his own party after images and descriptions of what were described as sexual text messages between the Republican and Regina Santos Avalos were released and appeared to pressure her into a relationship. South Carolina's Nancy Mace and Colorado's Lauren Boebert both announced that Gonzalez should step down. Texas Republican Chip Roy went further, announcing he's backing Gonzalez's opponent for the upcoming primary. House Speaker Mike Johnson, who said the allegations against Gonzalez should be investigated, has stopped short on asking for his resignation. Shifting gears, a federal judge has permanently barred the release of special counsel Jack Smith's probe into President Trump's keeping of classified documents. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
A federal judge has permanently blocked the release of special counsel Jack Smith's report on his probe of President Trump's hoarding of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. The investigation resulted in criminal charges 3 years ago and appearing before a House panel last month.
Our investigation developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in criminal activity.
Smith said that was in both the classified documents case and the president's bid to overturn his 2020 election loss. Both prosecutions, though, were dropped after Trump's 2024 win. The president asked Judge Eileen Cannon, whom he appointed to the bench, to keep the documents report under wraps, and she has agreed, saying its release would present a manifest injustice to the president and his co-defendants. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, February 24th, 2026 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Coming up this half hour, the aftermath of the blizzard that has battered the Northeast, and today's the 4th anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
The Supreme Court has agreed to consider a climate change case against oil and gas companies that has national implications. Jennifer King, Washington.
Fallout from the Epstein files continues to prove widespread. I'm Clayton Neville.
Your Google searches may be held against you. I'm the new old tech guy, Chuck Palm.
Lindsey Vonn says she nearly lost her left leg following a frightening crash at the Winter Olympics. I'm Ed Donahue.
A surprise outburst at the BAFTAs has sparked controversy. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. The nation's forecast on America in the Morning. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
In the west, ongoing storminess since Sunday will produce another round of heavier rain through northern California into southern Oregon. Some of these areas were hit pretty hard last week with heavy rain and mountain snow. Snow levels will be much higher in California. And with this and the rain falling on top of the snow, it could increase the risk of flooding as well as avalanches. And rain and mountain snow will continue to shift into Idaho, Montana, and northern Wyoming. Several inches of snow can fall across the northern Rockies. And it'll be a largely dry day through southern California into the southwest with temperatures climbing into the 70s, 80s, and even a few 90s. The recent nor'easter is moving off to the northeast, but we will have another clipper on its heels through the northern plains today and then into the Great Lakes. It will be shifting eastward into New York, Pennsylvania, and New England tonight. Snow amounts from this storm will be generally much less, with a general 1 to 3 inches, but higher amounts of 6 inches will be possible near the Great Lakes with the enhancement of lake effect snow. Now, before the snow arrives tonight, the Northeast will have some amount of sunshine today, but it will be on the colder side of average with highs only in the teens across northern New York and New England, with 20s and 30s a little bit farther south into the Mid-Atlantic. And that chillier air will also extend through the Ohio and Tennessee valleys and through the rest of the southeastern states with highs only in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. That will be from Kentucky into Mississippi and then eastward to Virginia, southward all the way to Florida. In the central and southern plains, it will be much warmer with highs in the 60s and 70s in parts of Nebraska, Missouri, and Kansas, southward to Texas, and even a few 80s in southwest Kansas into western Oklahoma and western Texas, and these areas will also enjoy plenty of sunshine. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. It started on Sunday and is finally winding down, but for many between Delaware and Maine, the blizzard of 2026 has left people under snow measured in feet. Mass transportation systems closed down, airport flight cancellations in the thousands, and even the shutdown of food delivery services like DoorDash and Grubhub in New York City and New Jersey that banned all travel. Correspondent Julie Walker reports a huge snowstorm in the Northeast forces millions to stay home and closing schools, and in Boston, the snow event is expected to eclipse Beantown's January blizzard, which dumped the 8th highest snow total Boston has had since records have been kept.
This has been a full-force winter weather response operation, with 2,600 sanitation workers deployed on every 12-hour shift and over 2,300 plows, including 700 salt spreaders mobilized citywide. In addition, DSNY has employed 575 emergency snow shovelers across our city last night, with more than 800 shovelers on the morning shift.
The sound of shovels scraping concrete in Brooklyn as New Yorkers like Vince Lisi dig out with up to 2 feet of snow in some areas of the Big Apple and even more in some parts of the state.
It's heavy as can be. Just got to take small shovelfuls. I've been out here for a good half hour. Basically not so much to clean it, but just to get the bulk out. Did that last night. I think it pays off. That's my technique. And I know I'll be out here again, but it's, we've got a wide enough path for people to walk their dogs and to walk to wherever they're going today.
Meanwhile, more than 3 feet of snow in some parts of the Northeast, like Rhode Island, where National Weather Service meteorologist Frank Perella says this nor'easter is breaking records.
There is the expectation that we will see several reports up above 36 inches here before all is said and done.
The bomb cyclone causing power outages, closing schools and airports, downing trees, and creating loads of issues. Flyer Daniel Gayikian.
My first flight was out of Newark yesterday night, canceled. Rebooked for this morning in Philadelphia, canceled. Rebooked for the middle of the day around 1 today in Philadelphia, canceled.
I'm Julie Walker.
More fallout overseas regarding the Jeffrey Epstein files, including another high-profile arrest and a mea culpa from a famous self-help guru. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Days after former Prince Andrew was arrested in the UK for alleged connections to disgraced financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, British police took Peter Mandelson into custody. He's a former ambassador to the U.S. and is accused of leaking sensitive political and market info to Epstein.
This is big enough ultimately to bring down the British Prime Minister. I mean, this is a massive scandal.
Niall Gardiner is a former advisor to Margaret Thatcher and spoke with Fox News.
Keir Starmer personally, of course, intervened to have Mandelson as a British ambassador to Washington. Starmer has faced intense questioning, of course, in House of Commons and Parliament. In recent weeks, there are growing calls for him to resign over this scandal. The charges against Lord Mandelson are extremely serious, basically passing on confidential British government documents to Jeffrey Epstein when Mandelson was business secretary.
Mandelson recently stepped down from the House of Lords and was charged with suspicion of misconduct in public office. That's the same charge Prince Andrew faces. Back home in the U.S., Dr. Peter Attia, a well-known medical influencer whose emails with Epstein were recently revealed. Well, he's resigned his post with CBS News. And self-help author Deepak Chopra had emails with Epstein. In New Mexico, lawmakers have launched a new investigation into allegations of trafficking and sex abuse at a ranch outside Santa Fe, once owned by Epstein. And in a report that came down late yesterday, the armed man who was shot and killed by Secret Service agents after entering President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate over the weekend was angry about the Jeffrey Epstein files. That according to text messages. I'm Clayton Neville.
4 years ago today, Russia sent a phalanx of tanks and launched airstrikes against Ukraine, a military incursion that the Kremlin believed would take days to seize their neighbor and former Soviet satellite state. But instead, 4 years later, Russia barely holds 20% of Ukrainian territory. Hundreds of thousands of Russian troops are believed to have died, and hardships for Ukraine's people worsen by the day. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports difficulties of a different kind are now befalling Russian citizens far from the fighting.
1.8 million is the current upper-end estimate number of soldiers killed, wounded or missing on both sides, according to a report last month by the think tank, the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Russia suffering 1.2 million casualties, including up to 325,000 troops dead. Between February 2022 and December 2025, Russia has not released figures on battlefield deaths since January 2023, when it said more than 80 soldiers were killed in a Ukrainian Ukrainian strike. CSIS estimates Ukraine has seen 500,000 to 600,000 military casualties, including up to 140,000 deaths. Standing in front of his bakery called Mashenka after his oldest daughter, Denis Maximov had pleaded with Putin via video to look into new tax reforms. He said, while looking ahead with optimism, frankly speaking, many businesses will close down. And now the Kremlin is tapping consumers and small businesses for funds more than ever. Last week, Maximov told the AP he was just surviving. He says the increased pressure is significant. That's no secret. It hasn't been easy, but we've managed to accumulate the necessary funds, transfer them, and are looking ahead normally for now. As Putin's so-called special military operation in Ukraine marks 4 years, the mounting pressure on Russia's economy is starting to show. Oil revenues are dwindling, the budget deficit is up, and military spending that fueled robust growth has leveled off. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Among the stories we're covering next on America in the Morning, the Supreme Court on climate change and Google's new Catch-22 after these messages. America in the Morning continues. The U.S. State Department ordered non-emergency personnel to evacuate the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, Lebanon. The department did not offer any details for the reason behind the evacuation. The move comes as President Trump has ordered a large buildup of forces in the Middle East and made threats against the Iranian regime. Reports from the Middle East say Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has tightened control over Hezbollah in Lebanon amid looming prospects of potential U.S. strikes. Trump previously gave Iran a deadline of 10 to 15 days to respond to a deal, and a U.S. delegation will be holding indirect talks with Iran in Geneva this Thursday. America in the Morning continues. The Supreme Court is taking up a landmark case this fall, pitting a medium-sized county against fossil fuel corporations. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
The Supreme Court has agreed to consider a climate change case against oil and gas companies that has national implications. Boulder, Colorado city and county officials say the lawsuit's about fairness and that taxpayers shouldn't be solely responsible for the costs of adapting to climate change. But Suncor Energy and ExxonMobil appealed after the case was allowed to proceed in state court. They argue the suit threatens one of the nation's most critical sectors, and that since emissions are a national issue, the case belongs in federal court, where similar suits have been tossed out. The industry is facing dozens of lawsuits from state and local governments. The Trump administration has weighed in support of the companies, saying if Boulder wins, it means any locality could sue virtually anybody for contributions to climate change. Jennifer King, Washington.
An investigation is underway after a former top NFL draft pick and college football All-American standout was found dead. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports.
Authorities say NFL wide receiver Rondale Moore has been found dead. He was 25. Police said Moore died of a suspected self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police Chief Todd Bailey said Moore was found dead in the garage of a property in his hometown of New Albany, Indiana on Saturday. The death remains under investigation. Moore had suffered season-ending knee injuries at training camp in each of the last 2 years after a standout college career at Purdue and a promising start with the Arizona Cardinals. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
The 16-year-old stepbrother of Anna Kepner has been charged with homicide as a minor in the death of the Florida teen. Kepner was on a Carnival cruise ship during a family vacation in November when her body was found under a bed in her cabin. The stepbrother, whose name was withheld because he's a minor, appeared in federal court in Miami for a hearing, but because the case is under seal, media was not allowed in the courtroom. Investigators believe Kepner, who was a high school cheerleader, may have been strangled during an altercation. CBS News is reporting that there is also another case against the teen that is currently under seal, overseen by a Miami federal judge. Shifting gears, Catch-22 for Google, caught between their users' privacy and helping police track down criminals. Chuck Palm has the story as the new old tech guy.
Law enforcement in several cases is now going to court for warrants that force Google to hand over details on anyone who searched for specific terms that might be tied to a crime. These are called reverse keyword warrants. Google has been forced to hand over details on anyone who searched for specific terms tied to a crime like a victim's address, a bomb-making phrase, or even a politician's name right before an incident. Police get the IP address linked to those searches and then narrow it down. It may sound shady, but it has helped crack some tough cases, like a series of Texas bombings, a fatal arson in Colorado that killed 5, and a brutal assault in Pennsylvania where the suspect was linked by searches hours before the attack. Google says it reviews every request for legal validity and then pushes back on the ones that are too broad. But privacy advocates, including the ACLU and library groups, are sounding alarms. They call it a digital dragnet that turns millions of innocent searchers into potential suspects. Courts are split. Pennsylvania Supreme Court recently upheld one in an assault case, saying that users don't have a strong privacy expectation when they voluntarily share queries with third parties like Google. Colorado's High Court found a similar warrant lacking one instance because it didn't target specific probable cause. This is not new tech, but does it go too far? Follow the new old tech guy on X at Chuck Palm.
Robert Workman has sports this Tuesday morning.
NBA Monday, the Spurs topped the Pistons 114-103 in a battle between teams with two of the top 3 records in the association. Devin Vassell had 28 points while Victor Wembanyama scored 21, grabbed 17 rebounds, and blocked half a dozen shots.
It's definitely a night where we confirm progression and confirm potential as well. But that was a good test.
That's 9 straight wins for San Antonio. The Rockets rolled over the Jazz 125-105. Jabari Smith Jr. led the way with 31 points. And the Kings ended a franchise record 16-game losing streak with a 123-114 victory over the Grizzlies. Duke is the new number 1 team in college basketball after knocking off previous number 1 Michigan on Saturday. The Blue Devils received all but 5 of the top votes from the writers in their poll and all but 4 in the coaches' survey. Arizona jumps back up into second place with the Wolverines dropping to third. Iowa State and Houston rounded out the top 5, but last night the 5th-ranked Cougars got slammed at number 14 Kansas, 69-56. That's their 3rd loss in a row, something that hasn't happened to a Houston team since 2017, and all 3 of these were to top 15 teams. Trey White had 23 points as the Jayhawks bounced back from a surprise loss at home to Cincinnati over the weekend. Also last night, 18th-ranked North Carolina eluded number 24 Louisville 77-74. Seth Trimble had a career-best 30 points for the Tar Heels. Each of the top 4 teams in this week's survey are in action tonight. NHL resumes play on Wednesday. The gold medal U.S. men's hockey team arrived in Miami Monday, and they have one stop to make before getting back to their paying jobs. They were invited to tonight's State of the Union address by President Trump. The Golden women's team was also invited, but had to politely decline. That's Tuesday Sports.
Tourette's syndrome meets racial slurs when America in the Morning continues after these messages. One of the harrowing stories from the 2026 Winter Olympics, the horrific fall American skier Lindsey Vonn took, crashing during her run, breaking her leg and ankle, and nearly having that leg amputated before doctors were able to save it. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports on an event the American skiing legend called the most painful and challenging injury she's ever faced in her life, times 100.
Lindsey Vonn says she nearly lost her left leg following a frightening crash at the Winter Olympics.
Oh, well, guys, after 2 weeks, I finally made it out of the hospital.
In an Instagram post, Vonn said the trauma from the crash led to compartment syndrome in the leg.
Compartment syndrome is when you have so much trauma to one area of your body that there's too much blood and it gets stuck. And it basically crushes everything in the compartment.
High pressure restricts blood flow and can lead to permanent injury if not treated quickly.
Dr. Tom Hackett saved my leg. He saved my leg from being amputated.
Hackett is an orthopedic surgeon who works for Vonn and Team USA.
He cut open like both sides of my leg kind of filleted open, so to speak.
Vaughn underwent multiple surgeries during her stay in Italy and broke her right ankle in the crash. I'm Ed Donahue.
Both the British BAFTA Awards, the UK's version of the Oscars, and the BBC are apologizing after a guest with Tourette syndrome shouted racial slurs as two black actors were on stage with millions of people watching. Entertainment reporter Kevin Carr has the story.
On Sunday, the British Academy Film Awards, known as the BAFTAs, took place in London. The night was meant to be a celebration of cinema, but an unexpected event marred it in controversy. While Sinners stars Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo took the stage to announce the first award of the evening, racial slurs could be heard from the crowd.
First BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
The man who shouted the slurs was John Davidson, an advocate for Tourette syndrome, who has the condition. He was there because the film I Swear, which was nominated for 6 awards and won 2, was inspired by his life. After his outburst, Davidson voluntarily left the ceremony and watched the rest in private. Tourette syndrome is a neurological condition that causes involuntary verbal tics in some people, sometimes resulting in offensive language. Robert Aramayo, who played Davidson in I Swear, won Best Leading Actor, further shining a spotlight on the neurological condition.
There's still so much more that we need to learn about Tourette's. For people living with Tourette's, to quote the film, they need support and understanding.
Later in the broadcast, host Alan Cumming addressed the instance and offered an apology.
You may have heard some strong and offensive language tonight. If you've seen the film I Swear, you will know that film is about the experience of a person with Tourette syndrome. Tourette syndrome is a disability, and the tics you've heard tonight are involuntary, which means the person who has Tourette syndrome has no control over their language. We apologise if you were offended.
I'm Kevin Carr.
That's our show for today, Tuesday, February 24th, 2026. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.